Hello, brothers and sisters. I am Cardinal Samantha Kennedy. Today I am talking to you about those who shall sit on the thrones of judgment and of the kingdom. Now, those people are the saints that the Messiah, Lord Real, has chosen. Now, not only will the saints reign with Christ, they will also judge with him. Now you have to look at Revelations book and Revelations 20, which is 4+. It is important to realise that even though the saints will perform judgment, this will not be the dominant activity during the millennial kingdom. At least not in the sense of melting out the punishments. But the thing is, you don't seem to understand that those saints that sit on the thrones will have a throne. Each of the main kingdoms are part of the New Jerusalem. So New Jerusalem will be the dominant factor of the new kingdom. But then you get offshoot kingdoms, and these are the kingdoms that the saints shall sit upon with their thrones. Now, to start with, obviously they're going to be judging you. Everyone that comes up will be judged, not just by the Messiah, but by these saints that are sitting on the thrones. Now, note the term judge is used in a broader sense in Scripture than in our common parlance. Yeah, it is often equivalent to ruler or king. This is an important bearing upon our conception of Christ returning to judge the earth with his second coming. Okay. The judgment of Christ is not limited to passing a sentence, but constitutes his reign as king over the earth, as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, because there'll be other factors underneath where you've got these kings and queens, but then you're going to have governors and other personnel that will have authority granted to them by the Messiah. The Psalms records that all the saints will have the honour of judging rebellious nations, and believe you me, there are plenty of rebellious nations. The judgment will be in accord with God's written word. In their rule of Christ, they will have positions of great authority. They will be over the kings and nobles and leaders among the nations still in their natural bodies. So as you can see, there's an execution of a judgment that's coming from the actual saints. Okay. When I said to you about the fact that we're not only judging the rebellious nations, the rebellious nations, as is spoken of, is what we're seeing today. There's a lot of nations out there that, even though their leaders have been told and they are fully aware that the Messiah's here, they chose, very stupidly, they chose to ignore that fact. They chose that they wanted to have the power and keep control of the people, and deny those people knowing that the Messiah is here, right? Where they could have done the complete opposite, and they could have informed their people, yeah, and done the right and respectful thing. Okay, so that is why they're going to get judged, and they're going to be judged harshly because of their actions, withholding the truth from you. Now, back to the subject. Do you know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world will be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Do you not know that we shall judge angels? How more? How much more? Things that pertain to this life. And that was Corinthians 1, right? And it was chapter 6, and it's verse 2 to 3. Okay. But the thing is that what that's saying there, and this is typical of Paul, getting it wrong and twisting the real teachings of Yeshua, is that yes, there are people that are chosen to live within the kingdoms, but the thing is, the real saints are not just every Tom, Dick and Harry. Okay, they are the family, and they are the chosen clergy of the Messiah. Okay, in other words, we're in divine service directly to the Messiah, and we are the ones that are actually sitting on the thrones, not everyone else. You'll be witnessing it, yes, of what's happening. You'll be fully aware of what's going on, but you will not actually partake in doing the judgment yourselves. And that's only for us. Several passages mention judgment of the Jewish tribes during this time. Where the tribes go up, and the tribes of the Lord, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. For thrones are set there for judgment, the thrones of the house of David. So Yeshua said to them, assuredly, I say to you, that in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. So he's telling the apostles, the 12 apostles, that they've got their 12 thrones. But 12 thrones is not just the main grand total, no. There are actually other thrones, which make up 21 in total, which classes the 21 elders. But you're also those continued with me in my trials, and I bestow upon you a kingdom, just as my Father bestowed one upon me, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom, and sit on thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And that was actually Luke 22, which is verses 28 to 30. Now the saints, like I said to you before, are the resurrected apostles that will judge over the 12 tribes and the nations of Israel. So don't forget, there were only 3 tribes that were actually remaining at the time in Israel during the time of Yeshua, but before that the rest of the tribes had been scattered across the world. And in doing so, that is why he also sent out his apostles to spread the word as far and wide as possible, so it reaches the 4 corners of the earth, because he knew that by doing so he would reach those lost tribes. Okay, that is why the Jews today who are in Israel have no right to turn round and say you are not a Jew. They absolutely have no right to say that to anyone, right? It is only the Messiah and the Father in heaven that can turn round and say you are Jewish. That is why it has been spread to the so-called Gentiles. So-called Gentiles. Okay, do you understand that bit? Those ones in Israel now are not real Jews, right? They have no right to turn around and say to anyone, you're not a Jew, you're just a Gentile. That is why many, if they look through their ancestral history real ancestral history, they will find that they're connected to a ancient Jewish tribe. Okay? So you got to understand this, why it has been so important that the teachings of Yeshua spread around the world, and why John turned around and said about the gathering, the regathering of the tribes of Israel at the end, and this is happening. And you'll find, specifically when it comes to judgment and things like that, they already know who are Jews and who are not Jews. Okay? You understand that? So yes, the tribes of Israel are gathering, you know, but there's a lot of others that obviously eventually won't be able to, because of certain one thing or another in trying to get to Israel. But everyone eventually will be gathered, and it will be the angelics that collect them from the four corners of this earth and bring them forth. Now the actual 144,000, they'll be collected by the angelics. These are the children of the 12 tribes of Israel. They are not adults, they are children. And those children will be taken to Elysium. Right? They are the new seed of the new kingdom. So, I'm going to also say to you this. As I've explained, the saints are the ones that are serving the Lord right now as his clergy. These saints will be sitting on the thrones judging you. Every single one of you. We will hold your fate in our hands. We are the ones that shall sit and decide if you live or if you die. That is also why it states how heavy the crown is upon the head of he who wears it. And believe you me, we take this extremely seriously. So when you mock and scoff at us and the Lord, you're putting yourself in a very bad predicament. Understand that point. We are constantly watching you. We are constantly conversing with you and trying to teach you, but at the same time we're noting what you are like. And then when it comes down to you standing in front of us and your life book open, we see every single nook and cranny of your life. Every single decision you've ever made, an action towards your brothers and sisters, if you've been good, if you've been evil, we will know. And we will have to pass a judgment upon you. Now, I have seen umpteen times when I scroll down the news feed on Facebook and other websites, and I see the groups and I see things that amazes me. It really does. I see cruelty to animals that are really, really bad. I see love. I see hate. I see a lot of stupidity with people. And I often say to myself, my God, IQ has dropped tremendously. You see people try to make a comment, to cause a debate, to have a good discussion, to discuss something that's happening with like Nibiru or about the angelics or whatever, and then you get some stupid moron piping in and trying to disrupt by coming out with such stupid and bizarre notions. It's unreal. Especially when they're talking about the Pantheon and they come out with pathetic notions about them, and then they don't listen to what's actually being said by us when they're corrected. So there's another point. I tend to look out for those that show caring and love of one another, and the love of God especially. When I don't see that sort of thing, from people, it saddens my heart, because I cannot understand why you people can deliberately hurt someone else out of fun, so-called fun. It's actually a very warped fun to you, when really it is sick and twisted and pathetic. It really saddens me, but it also makes me understand why so many of you will not make it into the new kingdom. Only 500 million plus souls from the dead and the living shall make it into the new kingdom. The rest, well, there's a great proportion that will end up in the outer darkness, suffering, but that's their reward, isn't it? Because of their behaviour. But they're going to end up having dog eat dog and having all these bad things going on. But then they're going to have to scrape to survive. But they wanted it that way. They wanted the chaos. They wanted the anarchy. They wanted to be nasty. So you get your reward, don't you, for that nastiness. So you have a choice in life. You're given that choice by God. You make those actions, right? You turn around and you hurt your brother, you'll suffer the consequences of that. You have to make sure in your life that you love your brother and sister, that you love God, that you do everything you possibly can each day, even in your thoughts, to be positive, to be the light. Okay? So we're going to have to be there, sat on those thrones, judging you and seeing all this on a grand scale, considering how many people are on this earth now alive, and you've gave us that job to do. Because at the end of the day, you need to have this kick in the pants. You need leaders that are going to protect you. You need leaders that are going to stand up and make sure that you have that paradise. But you work as one for the whole community. That you give of yourself for the whole community. That is why it says, what can you give? What qualities are there about you? What makes you worthy? That's something to think about, isn't it? So just bear in mind that while you're in the congregation, that when you speak to us what we're doing in watching you, that eventually you're going to be in front of us. So be mindful and learn. But not just that. Do everything you possibly can to bring others to the Lord's light. Share as much as possible and let your area know where you live. Don't be scared of persecution, for goodness sake. You know, because everything, like I said, is written down in the book of life. Every single action you've had, every single thought you've had. So if you can't be bothered to tell your people, your friends, your family that the Lord is here, and you're forbidding them His light, that goes against you. Think of that. And I will say one thing which I love to say at the end of this, and it's the Lord's words and it's His commandments, which is love God, love each other. Amen.